Is there a link between childhood trauma and creativity? We're going to look at three writers. Let's start with the first one, Philip K. Dick. He's famous for having written, for example, The Man in the High Castle. So The Man in the High Castle shows us a reality in which the Nazis and the Japanese Empire win the Second World War. It's an alternative history book. So in that book, there is a writer, and he's living on a house by himself in the mountains, and he's writing a book. That's a book about a parallel reality in which it is not the Japanese and the Nazis who win the war, but it's the Allies, the Americans, the Russians. So this story adds on top of each other these different layers of realities. The reality in the book is an alternative history. But in that alternative history, there's a man who's writing another alternative history, which pictures actually our reality. In the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? There is the story in which it is very cheap to buy electric stuff. In fact, the world is a dump for electric stuff. So it's very cheap to buy any like electric animals. So it's only the rich people who can afford to buy real animals as pets. So the question of the book is, because it's cheap for human beings to buy electric things, and they dream of real flesh and bones animals. This is their dream. So the question is, on the other hand, do electric people, androids, do they dream of having electric sheep? Inside each of Dick's stories, we have these perspectives of reality that are flipped over. This is what we see. But when we read Philip K. Dick's books, maybe we don't know that he actually had a twin sister who died at birth. And it is not clear exactly at what age he was told about this story, but it is said that he was quite young. And so the idea here is to picture Philip K. Dick maybe one Sunday afternoon, in which he doesn't have anything to do, and he was just told this story. So he's maybe around 7 or 8 years old, and he's lying down on his bed, and he's wondering, hey, if she hadn't died, my twin sister, where would she be right now? What would she be doing? Would we be playing together? So he's asking himself these questions. But then another idea came to his mind. It was, well, what if he had been the one who had died? And what if she had been the one who had survived? So would she be asking herself these same questions? Would she be wondering, hey, my brother who died at birth, how would life be if he hadn't died? Maybe she's even asking, hey, where would I be if I had been the one who had died? So Dick also said that this tragedy, this event in his life, has been a source of inspiration. Another author we want to understand is Dan Brown. So he wrote the Da Vinci Code. So in the Da Vinci Code, there is an opposition between maybe rational thinking. So it is illustrated by the investigator But on the other hand, we've got all this mysticism, all this religious symbology that's, you know, that's a little bit out of the down-to-earth, physical, materialistic reality. But let's dig a little bit deeper into his stories. There's one story. The book is called Angels and Demons. In that story, the scientists in Switzerland at the Hadron Collider at the CERN, the European Center for Nuclear Research, they have this laser makes particles to collide to identify what the physical context of the Big Bang was. But they redirect this laser towards the Vatican. They want to pulverize the Vatican. So basically, this is a picture of the fight, the war, basically, between religion and science. But what we don't know when we read Dan Brown's books is that his mother was a minister. She was working at church, but his father was a math teacher. And he wrote a book about calculus. So the question is, when we read these books about the war between religion and science, isn't it a metaphor for the opposition that he saw as a kid when he grew up? The opposition between a religious mom and a rational dad. And once in an interview, he also did say that it might have been a source of inspiration. But maybe what we think is that, hey, maybe his mom and dad had big arguments. Maybe they would fight, and this is why he pictured these stories of the war between science and religion. But actually, his parents got along very well. Le troisième auteur dont je vais vous parler, c'est Jean-Christophe Granger, auteur français de livres comme Le vol de cigogne, ou Le passager, ou bien sûr Les rivières pourpres, qui sont des livres qui en général sont plutôt sanglants et dans lesquels il y a beaucoup de meurtres, beaucoup d'organes qui sont coupés, c'est assez sanglant. So the last writer I'm going to mention today is Jean-Christophe Granger. So he's a French writer, and he's famous for having written some of these books that were translated into English. But in his books, there is a lot of violence, and especially, usually the bodies are cut into pieces, and it's very bloody. And so once in an interview, he was asked, hey, where do you get all these dark ideas from? And so he said he had a very nice childhood with his mom and his grandma mostly. But his dad actually was an alcoholic. And maybe sometimes he was afraid of him. But one day, he would be afraid of receiving his school results. So he would go to his mailbox every day to look at the letter from school and to catch it before his parents would. Just maybe like every kid is afraid of showing his bad marks to his parents. So one day he went to the mailbox, and there was a letter from, like an official letter from the city hall. So maybe he thought it was his school results. So he opened it, and in fact, this is how he learned that his father had died. And so this is a twist of reality, and that helped to twist his mind a little, because of course he was afraid of his dad's reaction. But what happened is he realized that his dad wasn't going to be here anymore to to yell at him because he had bad marks. And so he never actually said that, hey, this is the reason of his inspiration, but we can probably imagine that it helped his creativity.